If you follow me on the Corsi Blender YouTube channel, especially the shorts, or on the Rendering Evolution profile on Instagram, you've probably noticed some short videos where I show the transition from a clay render with neutral material to the final render, complete with materials and lighting. These videos show, for every viewpoint of the scene, the progressive transformation of the image from an essential representation of the model to the final result. The clay render, by the way, isn't just a visual effect. It's very often used right in the initial stages of the work to study and control the scene's lighting, removing the influence of materials and focusing exclusively on the lights and the volumes. This type of content stems from a specific request from some of my clients. Many architecture firms wanted a more effective way to present their projects to clients, making even static images more dynamic and engaging. This is where the idea for the From Clay to Render videos came from. In this tutorial, I'll show you how to create this type of video directly inside Blender using the video editor without resorting to external editing software. We'll see step by step how to organize the images and create a clean and effective transition between the clay render and the final one. First, let's open a new scene in Blender. Then we go to the top menu. Click on the plus sign and choose video editing so that Blender already presents us with the appropriate workspace window. At the bottom we have the sequencer. Here it is indicated, the preview window and the file browser. And now I'll go into my drive where I've already prepared the images to be used for this session. I'll move the window to the right for a moment to properly separate the clay render images, which are rendered with neutral material, and the material render images, so the final renders. Here we have the properties window. The first thing to note is that even within video editing in Blender, you work with practically the same commands used in the modeling viewport, so in the 3D window. So if I want to zoom, I can use the mouse wheel. And so moving on. First, let's go ahead and click on New in order to open up a brand new scene. There it is, right there, clearly indicated on the screen. The numbers shown to us are the seconds. This is a kind of sequencer, but it's like a timeline. If we zoom out with the mouse wheel, Blender also gives us the frames. So 6 frames, 12, 18, 6, 12, 18, and so on, which are the frames. The first thing to do, however, is to set up the properties window. Now for the render engine, let's use cycles. For now, let's leave the samples as they are. Then let's go to the format instead. Since the images were rendered at 1080 by 1920, which is a vertical format, we also need to set the format in the properties window with these dimensions, so 1080 by 1920 pixels. Frame rate. This is important. We'll set it to 30. Frames per second is the number of frames displayed every second. End frame and the frame range. We'll look at that later as we bring in the images. We'll lengthen or shorten it depending on what we need. And for the moment, let's leave everything as is. We'll see later, when saving the animation, what to lengthen and what to set up again. We've set the rate to 30 frames per second, and you can see that Blender has inserted it here. At this point, if I zoom in 10, 15, 20, those are the frames. So to get to 1 second, I go through 5 frames: 10, 15, 20, 25, 1. These numbers can vary significantly depending on the zoom depth that I have chosen to set. Let's keep a standard one for consistency, and let's set the starting point to 0, so we start from frame 0 and begin dragging the images one by one. Now, as a starting point, let's say I set each image for a duration of 2 seconds, and I'll activate the snap, so Blender stops the frame at each corresponding frame. So 2 seconds, you see it's 59 frames, not 60, because 0 counts as 1. So with that said, let's zoom out a bit. Let's keep the sequencer zoom so that we can see every second. Let's import the second image, which is a material render, and we'll bring it to 4 seconds, 1:19. Actually, let's do this. I was importing the second image, but let's do something else. Let's select both of these now and between them to avoid this rather abrupt cut. Let's add a sort of transition. So right click. After selecting both of the clips, right click, add transition, crossfade. It seems like nothing is happening. In reality, if I go ahead and select material render, 01.jpg and drag it over to the right, you see that the transition has been created and it gives me this effect, which isn't bad at all. For the time being, let's set it like this. It's not certain if the clips are long enough or too long, since we will also be adding the music track later on. Consequently, we will have to adjust the length. Now, it is quite clear that the frame range is far too short, so we can extend it either here or from this position. Let's keep it, actually. Let's do this. Yes, every second is fine. Let's take the second clay image, unhook it, and move it from 5 to 7 seconds. Once again, let's select these last two. Right-click, add transition, crossfade, take it and slide it until the transition reaches the value of 1 second, a duration of 1 second. So we'll keep the image clips at 2 seconds, then the transitions at 1 second, and continue like this until the end. It's a bit of a tedious process, but it's the only way we have left to. Let's prepare and set up this animation together. We'll take this one, hook it up, and set its duration to exactly 2 seconds. Add transition crossfade and set the transition to 1 second. Let's take this one. We'll move it from 14 to 16, so 479. It doesn't matter if you select one or the other first. It changes absolutely nothing. Let's set this one to 1100, so it doesn't bother us anymore. Let's take this other one and put it from 17 to 19. Let's select for the selection. If we want, we can. You see that the cursor changes shape when I place it here, mostly on the left clip. It gives me this. It takes this shape. On the right clip, it takes another, and it indicates what kind of movement I need to make. If I place it exactly in the middle, the cursor changes shape again. It highlights both clips that I can move. In this case, nothing happens because I have inserted the transition. This can be useful for us later on when we need to make some adjustments, some reductions, or some extensions to the clips to align them with the audio track. So we're at this point. Let's take this one, 2022. Let's select this crossfade, set this to 1 second. Let's take these. We're almost finished. 2025. And let's select this. Add transition, cross. Apply a fade effect to this particular one, which is the material clip number 28. And then, using this transition, apply a crossfade effect. It's actually a bit of a tedious process. I've tried doing a complete insertion of all the clips and then splitting them, but I ran into some issues during the transition phase. It then causes problems with the transitions. This is the best and safest way to have a correct system. A system that doesn't cause problems. Okay. By pressing the spacebar, the animation starts. It's maybe a bit slow, but now we still need to see how it looks with the audio track as well. Everything seems to be working. Okay, these are the renders I usually put together for my projects. One last thing we can do, let's maybe set it to 1200 and go back for a moment. I'll go to logo. I usually add my little logo. Let's set it to 2 seconds as well, then we'll see if it needs extending. In this case too, let's add a transition. Okay, there it is. The logo is too big. How does it work? The same way as if we were in the 3D window in the viewport. So I can press S and scale it down. Then I go here, in the properties window, I activate the strip tab. Here I see scale. Instead, I'll normalize it. Instead of 0.1635 or whatever, I'll put 0.2. That was very simple. Okay, now that we have completed that step, we can try adding the audio track to our project. I downloaded an audio track from, I think it was Pixabay Music, which has a creative license, so it's public. You just need to download the license for each musical track. Let's lower the volume to 0.35, otherwise it's too loud. But we can already see that the audio track is much shorter. So what do we need to do? The operation is either to slow down the audio track, but I don't want to perform this operation, or shorten the various frames, which is instead what I'd like to do. So in this case, I've already done some tests, but then it's also up to you to see if you can, if you want to shorten or lengthen the music track. I've already done some tests. You try doing some others too. I saw that by shortening both the frames, the image clips and the transitions, by 15 frames, so by half a half second, we get a result that allows us to get very, very close to the length of the audio track. Let's try then. I'll take the first one, which is, let's go in here, which is this clay render image, and I'll shorten it by, let's zoom in so we see it physically. We see it in a practical way. Let's shorten by 15 frames. Here we have 15 1 second. 15.2, we go to 2 seconds. So what we do here is we shorten it by about half a second, and then we also shorten this one as well. To make the transition even shorter, I have to take the... Let me show you exactly what I mean. The clip that is located on the right side, so what we do is bring it to exactly 215 frames for the transition. It really should not be particularly slow at all, just a smooth and natural movement. Okay, now let's bring it here. Let's keep as a reference these 3 spaces for 1, 2, 3 for the clips and 1 for the crossfade, so the transition. Let's take this again. We drag it by 15 frames. We drag this by another half second. This one we're going to occupy always these 3 spaces, so half a second. At the beginning it's a bit simpler, because then later, going forward in the transformation, in the reduction, we have clips that stretch and we have to significantly narrow them. So this one we bring it to here. This one we bring it here. And this other one, we bring it here. We always use 3 spaces plus 1 for the transition. External here, you see them stretching significantly, and so 15 becomes... We have to keep here, they are... We have 4 spaces, 4... Let's see if we made a mistake. 3, 3, 3, 3. 3 spaces, 3 spaces. Here there are 4 spaces, so we need to shorten it further. Same for this one. We're well aligned. Okay, now we are... This one, yes, this one, yes, this one needs to be shortened a bit. This just needs to be moved here right now. So this just needs to be moved right here, right now. This needs to be moved here to 1 second, right now. Let me see. This one also needs to be reduced in length to just 3, I think. So actually, 3 of these are 4 in total. Let's look at this one here. We should be there, and here we are almost. We're almost there, so let's do a quick test. Let's see how it sounds. Maybe we should lower the audio just a little bit more, just to be safe. Otherwise, it could still be a bit too loud. Okay, we can definitely go a bit further with this, so we can, in the meantime, maybe just lengthen it a bit more. Okay, and also let's add a background as well. take your time to make sure everything looks good before moving on. We click on Add Color, we put it under at the start of the transition. Let's go to the end so that we give... Then maybe here we can bring it up to here and lengthen the transition in this case. Okay, and here we can also add a fade out effect here, which allows us to soften the logo's exit. If we wanted to shorten or lengthen this fade out, we have to go into the graph editor. Let's go back for a moment. Let's enlarge here. Here it is. This one, pay attention. I've now selected this point. I press GX, and if you look at the clip of the logo, you see that the gradient changes, so I can lengthen it. Can I actually lengthen this decay phase? Okay. We can shorten this here like this. The music has finished by now. Let's shorten it even further, up to here. 870 for the animation. I can take this and insert in this case as well, not a fade out, but a fade in. Because we're right at the very start here, so it would actually look just like this in this particular way. Perfect. All that's left is to save the animation at this point. So in this case, let's go over here. Let's set GPU, which is a little bit faster for us. If we remove the threshold, let's go here. Let's say 1080 is fine here, 30 frames per second. 0 to 870 is fine. Okay, for output, we can set the folder where the file should be saved. The animation, which in my case is right here. So let's put, I saved it. All right, let's go ahead and use this one for now. Also, let's make sure to remove the here as well, just like before. I also need to take out this render test, okay? Yes, that's right. In the test, please accept. Let me double check everything to make sure it's all set. If you have any questions, let me know. Okay, file extension, we'll leave it here. Instead of media type image, we should set it to video. Video, let's go into encoding here. We can choose Matroska, which stands for MKV or MP4. I usually leave it as MKV, then if I need to slightly reduce the size, I can with Handbrake or any other compression software and convert it to MP4. I'll leave it as Matroska, so it'll be an MKV file. I'll leave everything unchanged because I've already done some tests. It works fine for me anyway. Let's see here and here, it gives me other options. Usually I don't touch anything because the default settings in Blender for video editing are they already seem good to me, very good. Okay, having done this, all we have to do is start the animation. And we can do it from here, render animation, or as shown here, the keyboard shortcut Control F12. Blender starts up and then saves the file as expected. Okay, let's take a look at how this works in practice. I'll go ahead and start it up now so you can see exactly what happens. Oh, there's actually no audio right now. So here's the mistake I made because I didn't set the audio. Here it is right below. The video audio codec is instead no. We have to add audio. I usually set it to AAC, which is good quality. Bitrate 192 is a good compromise. At this point, let's restart the animation. Okay, well, it seems like an interesting situation has just come up, and I have to say, I did not really expect this at all. You know, sometimes things just happen out of the blue, and you find yourself trying to make sense of it all. I am honestly a bit surprised, maybe even a little confused, but I am definitely curious to see where this is going to lead. It is one of those moments where you just have to pause for a second, take a deep breath, and try to process everything that is happening around you. I am not sure what to think yet, but I am open to seeing how things unfold. So let us just take a moment to consider what is going on and see what happens next. Excellent result considering that we're talking about 3D computer graphics software, so mainly modeling, rendering, materials, lights, and so on. Blender also gives us the possibility to transform it, to have at our disposal an excellent video editor for video editing. And I think that in fact for an entirely and absolutely free software, I mean, it's really absolutely the best. See you soon. Take care. Bye.